What's up, you venomous few? My name is Venomous Lord, and I want to thank you once again for tuning in to today's amazing video. I'm doing a little something different on my channel today. I know you guys appreciate my Yu-Gi-Oh deck profiles, my Behind the Boss Monster series, etc. But I feel like, getting stuck in a rut and making the same content makes your content a little stale. So today we're going to be doing some magic. And this was requested by some of the people that watch my channel outside of my subscribers that I know in real life, and they think that I should profile you today my commander deck, or EDH, whatever you're more comfortable with. And the general I'm playing with in this profile today is going to be Meren of Clan Toth. She is a 3/4 human shaman for 2, a black and a green. And whenever another creature you control dies, you get an experience counter. Those don't go away, they can't be spent, etc. They're going to stay with you for the rest of the game unless your opponent finds some way to remove counters from everything. Which is not going to happen, usually. And at the beginning of your end step, you can take a creature out of your graveyard. And if its mana cost is less than or equal to the number of experience counters you have, you get to put it on the battlefield for free. Essentially, playing a bunch of small creatures gives you almost unlimited resources, because then just about anything can replace itself. But if the creature's mana cost is greater, let's say you have 1 experience counter and you have a Terrastodon alone in your graveyard, you just throw that bad boy back in the hand. Alright. And now we are going to go ahead and just playing swamps, running 12 of them, just a good mana base. And I don't really like to go outside of like evenly concerned mana, because I don't ever want to be shorted. I absolutely hate that. So 12 forests as well. So even if our non-basic lands fail, we still have a balanced basic land pool. Alright, and then for our non-basic lands, first thing we're going to play is Field of Ruin. And you may think this may not be a good card to play in this deck, but aside from tapping from a colorless, it's a removal spell, pay 2, tap it, sacrifice it, destroy target non-basic land, then we both get to search for a basic land card. If it's a 2-player game, or if it's a 4-player game, all 4 players get to search for a basic land card. And then that card doesn't enter tapped at all, which is fantastic. So I get to replace it, minus the fact I just went -2. It deals with a lot of more problematic lands like your Glacial Chasm or your Dark Depths, etc. Westfell Abbey, big one. Next thing we're going to play is Royal Inquiry Tower, another land that shouldn't be played in this deck usually. The reason why I play it is because I like a lot of card advantage, and keeping cards in my hand is a really good thing. If I have to discard, I want to have options. So just a good land. Also taps for a colorless, which isn't too bad. Gives you no max hand size. Next one we're going to play is the best land. That's a non-basic colorless land in the deck. High Market, taps for a colorless, or you can tap it, sacrifice a creature, and gain a life. Gaining the life usually doesn't matter. I've seen times when it just, adds to the overkill that the game is going through right now. But the sacrifice a creature, you can get an experience counter, you get their death effects, etc. Next one we're going to play Opal Palace, just because, I never really need the 1/1 counter effect that you get from the pay 1 tap. But, tapping it for a colorless, or using it to be able to make a color that I don't have if I do get mana screwed, really helps my situation if I need to fix my mana. Next one we're going to play Temple of False God. Aside from the drawback of it being useless if you have less than 5 lands on the field, when you do have 5 lands, you just made 6 mana, assuming you don't have any double lands, etc. We don't play Golgari Rot Farm, so that's our only land that produces more than 1 mana. Next one, Leech Ridden Swamp. I like to stay away from tap lands, but this one's just too good. My whole theme here is Grave Recursion and group damage. It's a swamp, which is great for some of our card effects. It taps for a black normally, so regular old swamp. But if you pay a black and tap this, you'll be able to make each opponent lose a life, which can be pretty annoying. So you're giving your opponent options of lands to remove. Make them use up their resources. Next one is Kalani Garden. If you get this in the first turn in your opening hand, this is just a great land. It enters tap, but it does give you a 0/1 plant token, and when it untaps, it taps for a green, but it's just a good +1 land. I'd recommend any green deck to run this land. Kalani Garden is just fantastic token fodder. Next one is Tainted Wood. It taps for a colorless, or if you control a swamp, which we essentially play 13 of with the non-basic land that I just showed you a moment ago. It taps for green or black, so essentially if you have a swamp on the field, you got a free double land, almost. Next one is Foul Orchard, simple, enters tap, taps for green and black. Fixing our mana. Same thing with Golgari Guildgate. It's more thematically correct, because this is a Golgari based deck. We're going to play Hissing Quagmire. Taps for green or black, enters tapped. But if you pay 1, a green and a black, you get to make it a 2/2 black and green elemental creature with Death Touch. That's still a land, so it can still tap for mana, assuming that that's not what you're going to do it for, but it's a swing for game, or just a defensive card to remove some of your opponent's bigger, more concerning monsters. Next one, Path of Ancestry. If I just happen to hit something that's a human or shaman or both, I get a Scribe, but it gives me one of the colors I need. I lost my Sting land, which was Overgrown Tomb, and I had to find a replacement for it. So, I would play Overgrown Tomb if you have the Pain land for that, but if not, Path of Ancestry is a good replacement. Next one, Command Tower, General Reasons. It taps for green or black. And now we're going to go into Planeswalkers. I play 2 Planeswalkers. First one, Vraska, the Scheming Gorgon. 6 mana drop, 4 and 2 black for 5 loyalty. And you get a +2. All of your creatures get +1/+0, which is extremely relevant for the deck type I'm playing. You'll see why later. You can do a -3 and destroy a creature, which can come in handy. Or if you get her down to where you can use her ultimate ability, until the end of the turn, your creatures will gain Death Touch, and if they do any damage to your opponent or opponents, they lose the game. So if you have any creature that does 1 damage to each opponent, you just won the game. Or it's a swing for game type of thing. Next Planeswalker, we're going to play Nissa, Nature's Artisan. Just the effect of being able to... She's a 4 mana or 6 mana drop, 4 and 2 green for 5 loyalty counter. +3, you gain 3 life. -4, you get to reveal the top 2. Put any lands revealed onto the battlefield and the rest into your hand, so it's a good search card in a sense. Or you can use her negative ability, which is extremely helpful for going for game, but you most likely will almost never use it. All your creatures get +5/+5 until end of turn and gain trample. Next thing, we're going to go into enchantments. First one, the green enchantment that I play, is Evolutionary Leap. If I had a Birthing Pod, I would highly suggest that you play Birthing Pod. But Evolutionary Leap is a 2 mana drop, 1 and a green enchantment, and you can pay a green as many times as you want in a turn, as long as you got creatures to sacrifice a creature. Reveal cards at the top of your library, and until you reveal a creature card, put that card in your hand and put the rest back in your library, shuffled. My apologies, to put it on the bottom in a random order. So you get an experience counter, you get to trigger some effects, and you get a new creature if you're creatureless in your hand. Next one we're going to play is the legendary enchantment Aura, Journey to Eternity. For 3, 1 green and 1 black, you can enchant a creature you control. When it dies, return it to the battlefield under your control, and it transforms into this fantastic little land. Hold on just a second, my apologies. I'm using my phone right now, so I do apologize if the camera's a bit unsteady. For Isdell Cave of Eternity, once it transforms and becomes this land, it adds 1 mana of any color, more mana. Or you can pay 3, a green and a black, and tap it. Return a creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Essentially with this, you almost don't need Meren on the battlefield, but it's, additional boost. As many times as we can target our graveyard in a turn is the more advantage that we take in a game. Simple enough. Next thing, we're going to go into sorceries, and first we're going to do the black ones. For a green or 1 and 2 blacks, you get to sacrifice a creature, and so you get an experience counter and triggered effects. And then you draw cards equal to the mana cost of that permanent. So if you have no cards in hand and you just top deck this, it's an instant resource gainer. Next one, 4 mana drop, 2 and 2 black Diabolic Tutor. You get to search your library for a card. I like that. If you have Demonic or Vampiric Tutor, I would suggest playing either one of those instead. Preferably Demonic Tutor because it will go right to your hand. Next thing, we're going to play Beacon of Unrest. It's a 5 mana drop, 3 and 2 blacks. You get to take any artifact or creature from any graveyard and put it on your battlefield. And then this shuffles back into the library so you can use it again. Potentially, on a 1 in a million chance, you might draw it again. But, you know, it's just good grave recursion. Like I said, I want to target the graveyard as many times as I can in a turn, as long as I got resources for it. And this reuses itself. The only thing you got to really worry about is getting in that Homeward Path trap. But essentially, this is just an overall good card. If you have Reanimate, I would suggest playing that instead. Next one, we're going to play the best board wipe that black can offer, aside from Damnation, which is just black Wrath of God. For Decree of Pain. For 6 and 2 black, I know that's really expensive, but this is a late game killer. You can destroy all creatures and they can't be regenerated, and then you draw a card for each one. That is fantastic. You play against a token deck, you pretty much put your deck in your hand, you have unlimited resources to just go and win the game. Or if you really want to, you can just cycle it for 3 and 2 blacks, give everything -2, -2, and draw a card. So, it's just a fantastic board wipe. And then we are going to look at the green sorceries here. First one we're going to play is Kodama's Reach. It's a 2 and a green arcane sorcery. You get 2 basic land cards from your deck, put 1 in your hand, one on the battlefield tab. Simple enough. Green ramp. What green does best? Same thing with Cultivate. It's essentially the same card, only it's not arcane. And then we got Eldritch Evolution. You get to sacrifice a creature for 1 and 2 green. And then you get a creature card whose mana cost is X plus 2 out of your deck. So if you have a 4 mana drop creature, you can trade it out for a 6. Go from having Gonti and stealing your opponent's cards to Obnexless Unshackled, where they can't search. You know, just really, really good card. And you get an experience counter off of it, which is great. Next one, we're going to play Overcome. I would suggest playing Overwhelming Stampede or Pathbreaker Ibex instead of this, because those are just overall better battle cards. If you want just a good, cheap 5 mana drop sorcery for 3 and 2 greens, you can give all your creatures +2/+2 and trample until end of turn. So you're swinging for game, or you're trying to kill them via your other win conditions in the deck. And then the last one we're going to play is Rain of Thorns. For 6, 4 and 2 green, you get to choose 1 or more, destroy target artifact, destroy target enchantment, destroy target land, which is fantastic spot removal because that kills just about everything your opponents love. Alright, we're going to go into Instants. There's only 1 black instant, which is Hour of Glory. You get to exile a creature, and if that creature happened to be a god, which it seems to be a very common thing in most multicolored decks, or even, you know, just mono red specifically because of Hazaret and Purphoros, you get to look at your opponent's hand and discard any other copies of that card. There won't be any other copies of the card, but you get information that you didn't have prior. So for a 4 mana drop exile spell, I think that's fantastic. And then we're going to look at green instants. We're going to start off with Fog. You know, 1 mana, prevent all combat damage, saves your life. Naturalize for 2, 1 and a green, destroy target artifact and enchantment. Essential spot removal. And then the better version, which costs 1 more mana, is Corrosive Grip. For 2 and a green, it has split second, meaning your opponent can't cast spells or activate abilities on top of it, so this is uncounterable. You can destroy target artifact or enchantment, so your opponent can't stop you from removing that propaganda or that Rhystic Study, something that's really problematic on the board. And then we have 2 multicolor instants. One being Grizzled Salvage. For a green and a black, you reveal top 5, put a creature or land among those cards into your hand, and then dump the rest. So putting cards in your graveyard is absolutely essential. I always go for a land in this unless I see something I really need now. And then just some good spot removal. For Putrefy, one green and one black. Destroy target artifact or creature, can't be regenerated. Just a better version of Doomblade for me for this portion of the deck. Alright, so we're going to go into artifacts now. Let me just go ahead and break this down a little bit. First, we're going to talk about artifacts. Just a regular old non-equipments, nothing. We're going to play Soul Ring, best 1-drop in the game. We're going to play Contagion Clasp. When it enters, you put a -1/-1 on a creature. So you might kill something, you might not, you might make someone weaker. It's just, a -1 for, 2 mana. And pay 4 and tap it, you can proliferate, giving yourself more experience counters and give your opponent, I'm just go ahead and say it, we're playing with Infect, so you're going to give your opponent poison counters. Poison counters is very, very nasty with this. And, -1/-1 counters, give your opponent more of them. All the pain and suffering. Then we're going to play Throne of Gep. Sacrifice an artifact. You can sacrifice one of your artifact creatures, get their effects, get an experience counter, get some more triggers, and then you can proliferate. Same purpose. And then we got Golgari Cluestone. Taps for a green or a black for 3 mana. Or you can pay a green-black, tap it, and sacrifice it, draw a card. Darksteel Ingot. I was in a debate earlier when I was trying to work on some improvements for mana rocks, and I was thinking Felwar Stone, Command Sphere, or this. And Command Sphere is obviously a better card if you're looking into digging for resources, but this is mana that will almost never go away. Unless your opponent steals it or makes you sacrifice it, you'll always have at least 1 mana to play, even if your opponent blows up all your lands. So I think that's just a good little safety net. Then our 4-drop Panormonicon, which is absolutely nuts in this deck. Every time a creature enters and causes one of your creature's abilities to trigger, it triggers twice. Gonti triggers twice. There's like some elves that trigger. Sorry, I'm at a loss of words right now. There's a bunch of them. Verdant Sun's Avatar, that's a card we play. You'll gain double the life, etc. Just a good card for most situations in the deck. And then we have our Grafted Exoskeleton. Creature gets, as an equipment, creature gets +2/+2 and Infect, trying to hurt your opponent. And whenever it becomes detached from a permanent, like say you move it over to another creature, etc., that permanent gets sacrificed. So, experience counter. Next we're going to move into artifact creatures. And we don't play a lot of them, but the ones we do play have some good quality for the deck. We're going to talk about Necropede. 2 mana drop, 1/1 with Infect, and when he dies, you get a -1/-1 counter on something. Fantastic. Slam that Infect. Then we're playing Inkerclaw Mirror. Another 2 mana, 1/1 with Infect. And whenever he gets blocked, he's going to get a +2/+2. So that's a 2 mana drop, 3/3 Infect. Your opponent's got to deal with that. Or else they get hurt really bad. Because you can just essentially keep replaying this because it's 2 mana. And then Plague Mirror. The reason why I don't play another mana rock because he taps for a mana. Also, he's a 2 mana drop, 1/1 with Infect again. Quick creatures, Infect, slay bodies. Solemn Simulacrum. A card I think should be played in just about every deck. You get a basic land, enters tap when he enters. If you have Panormonicon, it triggers twice, so you get 2 basic lands. Then when he dies, you draw a card. So there's that. Steel Hellkite, just good spot removal, or you can attack for game with it. assuming, or you can deal with problematic planeswalkers. I hate when somebody uses a planeswalker commander or has one of those really annoying planeswalkers like a Jace Beleren, and I just have to kill it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. If I got Steel Hellkite available to me, I'm going to knock out those planeswalkers. And then we have Scuttling Doom Engine, which is a huge surprise. You usually see this in an artifact burn deck, but for a 6/6 for 6, can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less, so your opponent's going to have to swing and block it with something big. And then when he dies, not only are you going to get an experience counter and effect triggers, but you're also going to burn something or someone. And you can keep replaying him, which is nuts. Now we're going to go into creatures. And there's a fair balance of creatures in the deck. We're going to look at black first. First one we're going to look at is Apprentice Necromancer for 2 mana, 1 and a black. You get a 1/1 zombie wizard. And then you can pay a black and tap him, sacrifice him, so you get an experience counter and triggers. Get a creature back from your graveyard, targeting the graveyard. And you're going to be able to give that creature haste so you can swing with it, potentially get more triggers and experience counters, or punish your opponent a little bit. And then at the beginning of the end step, sacrifice it. Experience counter and triggers. What can I say? This is just a good card. And he almost replaces himself. And then we got Contagious Nim. He's just a 3 mana, 2 and a black, 2/2 with infect. You know, pushing for more infect damage. The quicker we can get it to where your opponents have 10 poison counters, the better. So, you know, just fantastic. And then we have Liliana, the Heretical Healer. She's a 1 and 2 black mana, 2/3 human cleric with lifelink. And whenever another non-token creature you control dies, she gets to get exiled, leave you with a 2/2 zombie, and she transforms. One second, let me just show you what she transforms into. She turns into Liliana the Defiant Necromancer. 3 loyalty counters, she gets a +2. Each player discards a card, you get to put stuff in your graveyard, and you make your opponent lose resources. For a -X, you get to return a creature card with a converted mana cost X to the battlefield, targeting the graveyard. Or if you go for a -8, you get an emblem with whenever a creature dies, not even just yours, return it to the battlefield under your control during the end step. So if you board wipe or Decree of Pain or anything, you get everything back, which is fantastic for her. The only thing I hate about it is she's a huge Homer Path Trap. Then we got Gonti, Lord of Luxury. For 2 blacks, she's a 2/3 Death Touch Aetherborn Rogue. And when he enters, you get to look at the top 4 cards of target opponent's library. Take a card and exile it under him. And then you can cast that card at any time using your mana as if it were any color to cast it, even if he leaves the field. Keep replaying him with Meren or any of your other Grave Recursion cards, and then you go ahead and you... Sorry, I lost the words again. Fuck. There's a card I just saw earlier. Panharmonicon. Sorry, I'm a little slow. It's like 4 in the morning. I haven't slept. But Panharmonicon, he'll trigger twice, so you get to take a bunch of cards away from people. Eliminate resources. Next thing is Grave Merchant. Every black deck should play him. For 3 and 2 black, you get a 2/4 zombie. And when he enters the battlefield, which could trigger twice with Panharmonicon, just saying, you can make each opponent lose life equal to your devotion to black, and he counts himself. And then you're going to gain that much life. Shriekmaw. 4 and a black for a 3/2 elemental with fear, which is not what you're worried about. When he enters the battlefield, destroy target non-artifact, non-black creature. And he has an evoke cost of 1 and a black, so you can just play him for this, sacrifice him, get your experience counter and your triggers, and his effect still triggers. So he's like unlimited spot removal with your commander on the field. Next thing we have Voldarian Feria. I got a lot of questions why I'm playing this card in the deck. And it's because I hate token swarm decks and I hate angel decks. Because angel decks are really problematic with locking down colors and creatures in your graveyard, etc. But she's a 5 mana drop, 3 and 2 black, 3/3 flyer. And if you discard her by any chance, Liliana or Duress, etc., you can play her for her madness cost, which is 3 blacks. But you can sacrifice 3 creatures as an instant speed ability to transform her. And when she transforms, when she transforms, she turns into a 6/5 flyer. And when she transforms, she's going to make target opponent sacrifice 3 creatures. So she's going to eliminate the swarm, which is really the whole purpose she's here. She's a little bit of riot control. And she's going to get you experience counters and triggers, etc. Next one we're going to play is a 4 mana drop, 3 and a black, Vindictive Lich, for a 4/1 zombie wizard. Whenever he dies, he's really great in multiplayer matches, or even in single player, the 2-player matches. He's essentially really good for knowing what your opponent has and being able to take it away from him. Whenever he dies, you can sacrifice a creature, or make your opponent sacrifice a creature, or they discard 2 cards, or they discard 5 life. Now, if you're playing a multiplayer game, you have to target a different opponent with each mode. But he's going to swing just about every turn and recur himself, and it's just great. And then we have another 3 and a black, Magnus of the Abyss, for a 4/3 human wizard. At the beginning of each upkeep, each player has to destroy a target non-artifact creature that player controls of his or her choice. So your opponent's going to be popping something every turn. And they can't regenerate those things, so you can run things like Troll Hide, etc. And he's a 4/3. You're just going to play it, let him stick around for a few rounds, or if you just need him for a round, just pop himself when it comes back. Really good. Then we're going to be playing Banshee of the Dread Choir, and this is why we play Infect and Infect Eclipse as a minor portion of a win condition. It's because for 3 and 2 blacks, you get a 4/4 Spirit with Meren, which means she attacks everybody. Whoever you swing at takes actual her, but all the other opponents will take tokens. And whenever she does damage to a player, that player discards a card, taking away resources from your opponent. And then we got Archfiend of Depravity. For 3 and 2 blacks, you get a 5/4 flyer, and at the beginning of each player's end step other than you, that player sacrifices all but 2 creatures. Riot control. I hate tokens. I hate swarmy decks. I'm going to put you where you only have your 2 most important creatures, and then I'm going to run over you with Infect, unblockable things, etc. And then we're going to be playing Butcher of Malakir, which is probably the best card for a 7-drop in the deck. For 7, you get 5 and 2 black for a Vampire Warrior with flying, 5/4. And whenever she or he, rather, that's a dude. Yep, that's a dude. Whenever he or another creature you control dies, your opponent has to sacrifice a creature. Combine that with Voldarian Feria and Archfiend of Depravity, you're taking away all of your opponent's creature resources. And then we got, a secondary cover card for Meren. You see he's in the artwork. Scourge of Toth. For 5 and 2 blacks, you get a 6/6 flying zombie dragon. But you don't have to pay that. If you discard him, mill him, etc., put him in the graveyard, you can pay 2 blacks and sacrifice 2 creatures and play him from the graveyard. And then last black creature we have is Sheoldred, the Whispering One. For 5 and 2 blacks, you get a 6/6 legendary Praetor with Swamp Walk. At the beginning of your upkeep, you get a creature back. She's like a bigger version of Meren. But also, beginning of each other player's upkeep, they have to sacrifice a creature, limiting resources. Now we're going to look at some green creatures. Let me make sure they're all separated. Yep. First one is going to be Caustic Caterpillar. For 1 mana drop, a 1/1, you can pay 1 and a green, sacrifice it, destroy an artifact or enchantment. So just a little bit of go to spot removal, and he's a 1 mana drop, so he replaces himself. 1/1 for 1 green Spore Frog. He's a frog. So cute. Sacrifice him for free. Prevent all combat damage this turn. You get a fog every turn. And he replaces himself for 1. He's probably the most annoying card in the whole deck. People hate Spore Frog. Every first turn, if people know you're playing this deck, they're going to try to remove Spore Frog from your hand. Then we got another 1/1 for 1. Elvish Mystic. Taps for a green. You know, fast mana. Same thing with Llanowar Elves. And then we got a 2 mana drop, 1 and a green. Sakia Tri-Builder. He's a 1/1 Snake Shaman. Sacrifice him for free. You get a basic land card out of your deck. Put it onto the battlefield tapped. And then we got Wood Elves. For 2 and a green, you get a 1/1 Elf Scout. When he enters the battlefield, get a forest, put it on the battlefield tap, and shuffle your library. Or you don't, it doesn't enter tap, so you get a free forest. And then you got Reclamation Sage. For 2 and a green, you get a 2/1 Elf Shaman. When he enters, you may destroy target artifact or enchantment. Just more hindering removal. And then you got Acidic Slime. For 3 and 2 greens, you get a 2/2 Ooze with Death Touch. And when he enters, destroy target artifact, enchantment, or land. Destroys anything but a creature that you could be worried about. And then we got Silklash Spider. For 3 and 2 green, you get a 2/7 Spider with Reach. And you can pay X and 2 green, and he's going to deal X damage to each creature with flying. That eliminates a lot of big threats, like dragons, thopters, etc. And then we got a Briarhorn. For 3 and a green, he's a 3/3 elemental with flash. When he enters, target creature is going to gain +3/+3 until end of turn, which works with your Infect or your Trample. You're using him to hit big. And you can evoke him at any time for 1 and a green. Unlimited creature buffs. Unlimited giant growth. Big things. And then we have Avenger of Zendikar. For 7, 5 and 2 green, you get a 5/5 elemental. And whenever he enters the battlefield, you get a 0/1 green plant token for every land you control. Which is why we play a lot of land ramp. So when we buff him out, we have a lot of sacrifice fodder and a lot of creatures on the field that makes your opponent really panic. And he has landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you get to put a 1/1 counter on each plant you control. So all those plant tokens get super buffed, and you're going to hurt your opponent. And then we have Verdant Sun's Avatar. For 5 and 2 green, we get a 5/5 Dinosaur Avatar. When he or another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain life equal to that creature's toughness. What would a life gain? Keeps you in the game. And the last green creature is going to be Cloud Thresher. For 2 and 4 greens, you get a 7/7 Flash and Reach Elemental. When he enters, he does 2 damage to each creature with flying, more flight removal, and he has an evoke cost of 2 and 2 green. You can play him at any time and bust some flying creatures. And that's it for the green creatures, and we're going to go into the multicolored creatures. First one, we have Corazota Guildmage. For a green and a black, you get a 2/2 Elf Shaman. And for 1 green, 1 black, and 1 anything, you can give target creature a +1/+1 and intimidate till the end of turn. Or you can pay 2, a green and a black, to sacrifice a non-token creature. And you get X 1/1 Saprolings, equal to that creature's toughness. So you're going to get experience counters and triggers, and you're going to get tokens, and it's going to get out of control quick. So much value in a 2 mana drop creature. And then we're going to have 2 greens and 2 blacks for a 2/2 legendary zombie elf, Gerard Golgari Lichlord. He gets a 1/1 counter for every creature in your graveyard. Essentially, he gets really big sometimes. And for 1 green, 1 black, and 1 of anything, you can sacrifice a creature and burn each opponent equal to that creature's power. And then you could sacrifice a forest and a swamp if you wanted to, return him from your graveyard to your hand. Bit of a recursion in himself. And then we got Whining Constrictor. For a green and a black, you get a 2/3 snake. If a counter would be put on an artifact or creature or you, it gets that many +1 instead. more counters, out of control. And then we're going to play Catacomb Sifter. For one green and a black, you get a Devoid 2/3 Eldrazi drone that gives you a 1/1 Eldrazi Scion token when he enters that sacrifices itself for 1. And whenever another creature you control dies, you get to scry 1, so you get to dig for those answers for your opponent. And then the last creature in the deck is Poison Tip Archer, one of the newer cards that came out. For 2, a black and a green, you get a 2/3 Elf Archer with Reach, more flight blockers, with Death Touch as well. You're going to kill something whenever he does damage. Also, whenever another creature dies, your opponent loses a life. Burn your opponent to death. Give him infect. Punish your opponent for making decisions that they like making. And that's it for the main deck. I did build a 15 card sideboard if you're interested. And the sideboard's completely up to you, but this is just what I play. Start off, we got 1 enchantment with 8 from the cow. For 3 and 2 greens, you get a Revolt enchantment whenever a permanent leaves your battlefield. During the end phase of your turn, you get to reveal the top card of your library. If it's a permanent, you get to play it. Simple enough. And then we have 2 black sorceries. The first one being Innocent Blood. For 1 black, each player sacrifices a creature. Pretty self-explanatory. And then for 3 and a black, you get a Devoid sorcery, which is Oblivion Strike, and exile a creature. More spot removal for those annoying Ulamogs. 1, 2, 3. Alright. We got 3 sorceries here. For green, first one for 2 and a green. Recollect, you get any card from your graveyard back to your hand. Bit of recursion. And then we got Desert Twister for 4 and 2 greens to destroy target permanent. Anything dies. And then for 5 and 2 greens, we have Wave of Vitrolli. Each player sacrifices all artifacts, enchantments, and non-basic lands they have, and puts non-basic lands onto the battlefield equal to the number of non-basic lands they sacrifice. And if somebody has Microsoft Wellspring, or Lattice, you just clear the board and reset everybody to just basic lands. And if your opponents don't play basic lands, their game is over. Next thing is the 1 instant for black, Doomblade. For 1 and a black, destroy target non-black creature. Really good spot removal. And then for our artifacts, we do have Command Sphere as an option to put in the deck. Lightning Greaves, followed by the boots. Discount footwear warehouse here. And then for creatures, you have 1 and 2 black for a 2/3 Vampire Shaman with Death Touch and Lifelink and Flying. So Vampire Nighthawk, really good. And he's the Batman of Magic. Really don't like Batman, but I guess that's up to personal opinion. And for green, we have a 6/6 Elemental for 5 and 2 greens. When he enters, he does 6 damage to every creature with flying. Whenever he attacks, you can make him deal combat damage as if you weren't blocked. That means if he gets blocked by a creature and you don't choose to deal damage to a creature, you can deal all of it to your opponent. Deal a little bit of extra, stinging in, but you won't deal damage to the creature. And then for 6 and 2 greens, you get a 9/9 Elephant. And when he enters, he destroys up to 3 target non-creature permanents, and for each permanent destroyed this way, its creator creates a 3/3 Elephant token. Also use a 9/9 Beat Stick. Extraordinaire. And then for multicolor, we have a 3 mana drop, 1 green, 1 black, 1/4 Reach Spider. Whenever he does damage to a creature, it's a -1/-1 counter. A little bit of synergy. And whenever he puts 1 or more -1/-1 counters on a creature, it causes you to make each opponent lose a life and gain a life. And then the last one we're going to play is a 5 mana drop, 3 and 2 black, Vulture Zombie. And he is a plant zombie, 3/3 flyer. Whenever a card hits your opponent's graveyard, put a 1/1 counter on him. Any card from anywhere. And that's about it for my deck. The deck is severely competitive. The green-black Meren deck is usually full of more control-y troll cards to make your opponent question why they're even playing Magic at all. But sometimes you just gotta bust out the black and green aggressive side give your opponent some poison counters, maybe use Vraska and win the game. Poison Tip Archer is a really good card in the deck. But anyways, that's just my deck. Feel free to let me know what you think down in the comments below, and make sure you smash, crumble, and crush that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you keep up to date on all of my videos, and click the little notification bell next to the subscribe button down below so that you never miss any of my content. And I just want to thank you guys so much for coming and joining and watching me today, and I will see all of you guys in the next video.